Hello.
I'm Shannon.
And I'm CJ.
So we're back for episode 2 of The Real on the Way. So we're going to give it to CJ to open up with a quick prayer real quick.
Yes. So those who are watching, please bow your heads. Father God, we come to you today, God. We just want to say thank you for this day, God. From the moment you woke us up this morning to this very moment right now, God, we give you glory and the most high, God. Ask that you forgive us for our sins and anything that we have committed knowingly or unknowingly to you, God. And then we ask that you allow that this Bible study that we have, or our talk show, to move and be able to really touch upon those who are watching and those who were not able to tune in last week. God, we ask that you give them a way to tune in to be able to also find and grab something from this talk show today. God, we just say thank you for the messages. And we just love you, God, and these prayers and bless you. I see your son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
So if you weren't here last week, basically the purpose of this talk show is to show how God not only just gives us messages in church or inside the four walls of the church, but it's to also give a different revenue and a different resource of how God portrays messages to us. So pretty much our theme is a message in the movies, right? So a message in the movies. And the movie that we decided to really dive into was The Matrix. And just to give a quick recap from some of the things we talked about last week, we explained what The Matrix was. And to really break down what The Matrix is, basically in the movie, humans created artificial intelligence, which is basically like giving a computer a conscience, so to speak. And in doing this, as time evolved and with evolution, the machines pretty much, I don't know who struck first, but basically the machines developed and a war started between machines and humans, correct?
Yep.
And when that happened, we learned that in the movie, the machines use the solar power for their energy, right?
Yeah.
So the sun is what powered the machines to actually be active. And so the humans figured this out, and so they took out the solar power to get rid of the functioning for the machines.
Yeah.
But unfortunately that backfired on the humans because the machines pretty much learned that they can use the human body as an energy resource. So the Matrix was created as a false reality to keep the human mind in prison, while the machines basically use their bodies to fuel energy for themselves. So the Matrix is kind of like the world we live in here and now, but to us humans, it's all just fake reality. Just to keep us occupied while the machines are using our bodies for energy for their benefit, basically. And so how did we connect the Matrix to the kingdom?
I believe we sort of connected it with the power. That was sort of the big thing. So in the Matrix, those who went into the Matrix, examples like Neo and some of the other characters, they had this power where they were able to sometimes bend the laws of physics in a sense, learn new skills, and do different things. Remember, I don't know if you guys tuned in. If you haven't, when we did the whole Matrix like this and dodging the bullets and stuff like that. So that was sort of the connection right there, the power within the Matrix, and then even the power that we have as believers to sort of to be able to do some of these same things as far as accessing this power through our own lives to move the things that we do have control over. So that was sort of the connection that we had there. It was actually really good. I enjoyed myself last time. So
yeah, you missed that, but you can go back and watch the reruns. We got reruns. You can log on to YouTube and Facebook, and you can go back and watch the video. And one other thing, we talked about Neo. Can you give also a little quick recap of Neo?
So we didn't go as deeply as we should have because we were saving a lot for tonight. But as far as with Neo, we sort of broke down who he was, how did he become the one, what did the one stand out to be. So that was sort of like a little bit of what the one was, and then sort of that process of becoming the one, the training he went through a little bit. So that was sort of the much of how we got into it. Like I said, I don't want to go too deeper into it because we are going to break it down heavy tonight, but
Right.
that was a little bit of what we had to go into as far as with Neo.
And when we say the one,
Oh
quote
yeah,
unquote, in the movie, Neo is looked at as the person who's gonna save
yeah.
everyone from
In the
the
war,
Matrix.
yeah, he's the one that's going to come and end the war against the machines and humans. He's going to end the war. So
So that's his title. As the
Mhm.
one.
I got hot.
And then spirit hits you. So today, in today's episode, we kind of want to take some of the things that we talked about last week, as just a few of those points, and kind of dive a little bit deeper into those, and kind of pull out a little bit more revelation in certain scenes, and even give you guys a chance to even talk back to us and
Yeah.
communicate with us via Facebook Live or YouTube. So you can comment. So if there's, we will go back and read your comments. So if there's anything you can relate to, comment, give us a little encouragement, or agree with something we said, we're happy to go back and read that. So just know that you can do that as well. So where do we start?
Well, all right. So the first thing we're going to start with, one of the things that me and Shannon was talking about when sort of even creating this, we talked about Neo. We talked about being the one last week, which is pretty good. We want to sort of go into Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. Again, I hope that you guys were encouraged enough to watch the movie. If you didn't watch the movie, I'm gonna break down who Mr. Anderson is. So just so you can get a little bit feel of who Mr. Anderson is if you haven't watched it, but make sure you do watch it. So Mr. Anderson is before Neo and before the one. The beginning of the movie, Mr. Anderson works, I don't remember exactly where he works. I know he works at an office and he had his own desk. He was, in a sense, going through the motions, waking up, not really feeling it throughout the day, but goes to work. After work, comes home. Wake up, goes to work, comes home. So he was almost in a cycle. And throughout the movie, in the beginning of the movie, you could really start to see that something was like, I don't know, like picking at him in a sense. It was like something was there that was like really bothering Mr. Anderson, but he never really dealt with it in a sense. He never really like spoke on it, but it was just something, you could tell it was just something that was there that was like really igniting him to want to do something more, don't you think?
Yeah, I think just to be clear, Mr. Anderson is Neo, is pretty much Neo.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
He began to acknowledge himself as
Yeah, I
Neo.
didn't say that. I'm sorry.
Mr. Anderson is the Matrix version of Neo.
That's good. Matrix version of Neo, Mr. Anderson.
So yeah, I agree. He basically just went through the motions of the day. I almost kind of feel like he didn't really have. I don't want to say he didn't have identity, or he kind of just didn't have a whole lot to look forward to. In a way, he knew there was just something kind of off about things, or just off about the world in general. And I believe he was just looking for, probably looking for a purpose, or looking for something more to just this life he was living.
Well, I mean, then you sort of like threw something new in there that I didn't even think of, him not having an identity. I thought that was pretty deep. I think that's pretty deep. Whereas a lot of times as believers, we are somewhat so content with sort of going through cycles, and we don't always know what our purpose is in the kingdom. And so we are Mr. Andersons at some point where we're just going, something don't feel right, but we just keep going. We don't really acknowledge it, but we just keep going, and it really does seem like you almost have a loss of identity, in search of a purpose, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's true. And specifically, I think I like how you said that we're kind of Mr. Anderson in Christianity or really beginning to come into the kingdom, I think Mr. Anderson kind of represents the immature believer, the believer that doesn't really know themselves or doesn't have that identity, like you said.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned cycles, that made me think about probably one of the most powerful messages Apostle preached. That probably one of my favorite messages because it really touched me at a place when he talked about limbo.
Oh.
So I kind of shout out to PZ because I kind of took his notes with this because I wanted to use the definition that he had because I thought his definition was really powerful. So limbo, if you didn't get a chance to experience that message, he talked about limbo being a place between destiny and dysfunction. And this is a condition that has the soul arrested, creating a never-ending cycle of confusion and indecision. And this restricts momentum, retards movement, and arrests development. So, yeah, so I kind of feel like Mr. Anderson was in a place of limbo. And it's crazy because that part that stuck out me really well was the arrested soul. Because when something is arrested, it's basically seized and by something that has legal authority to take custody of it. So when you're in a state of limbo, basically kind of the enemy has you stuck and the enemy kind of has authority over that attack that you may experience, or keeping you in a place where you're just kind of dumbfounded and not really progressing or maturing or development in life. So I thought that was really powerful.
I agree. See, okay, so I'm like listening and then I'm sort of like hearing more. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, Mr. Anderson is sort of connected to being in limbo, right? In a sense, the beginning of the movie in the Matrix, or after, I'm gonna shoot past just a little bit, but sort of after Neo was taken out of the Matrix, you know, when he was going through and he woke up, wouldn't that sort of look like limbo in a sense, where all those captives was? Like everybody was in a little egg cocoon in a sense, and so you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So everybody was sort of in the same, because they're all in the Matrix. Those were born in the Matrix, and they're all going through those same cycles that everybody else is going through. Some are just more, what's the best word, comfortable in their dysfunction than others, whereas others, such as Mr. Anderson, was starting to get a little more irritated in a sense where he could feel something was wrong, but could never really put his hand on it, where others were just like Morpheus said, it'd be doctors and lawyers and things of that nature, and they don't even realize that they're in the dysfunction. And I think a lot of times, I can speak for myself, at some point in my life, as a believer, that I sat in dysfunction and never really acknowledged that I was in dysfunction until I had somebody such as Apostle to really help me, and those around me to really help me and pull me out of the dysfunction and give me the tools I need to be able to pull myself out. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think limbo. I think a part of limbo, or a way that the enemy uses limbo, is to keep us in a comfort zone, like you said, with those cycles. Keeps us in a place of comfortability. A lot of people don't even like change, or can't really accept change, or change makes people uncomfortable. But we have to get uncomfortable in order to get out of those things.
Yeah, shout out to one of my mentors. Uncomfortability is the gateway to growth. That's it. That's it. Okay, so we sort of like know Mr. Anderson right now, and we see him as the immature believer. But there was like a point where he got contacted by Morpheus, and even then, like, okay, so my question to you would be like, what do you think about how he got contacted through Morpheus, and even like Mr. Smith's and the agents coming to his job? I feel like we talked about that before. How the agents were so quickly to come after him even before he knew what his destiny was. I thought that was really powerful. So it was like, could that have been like a moment where God was, I guess, trying to gain his attention?
That's interesting that you said that. I think when you said the computer thing, because there was a scene in the movie where it's Neo, Mr. Anderson, sorry, he's real into computers and even computer hacking, stuff like that. And there was a moment in the movie where he was sitting at his computer and he had fell asleep, and there was a message that came across the screen, and this was actually, I think that was Trinity who sent that message. But regardless, whoever sent the message,
I don't remember that.
I believe it was Trinity.
Okay.
But
don't quote us.
the message was sent to him through his computer, and it was basically telling him wake up. And he woke up and he saw the message, and this person was talking to him, and he's kind of like, "This is weird. Who is this? I don't know who this is." And one of the things that they said was follow the white rabbit. And I know in Neo's mind he's kind of like, huh? And then the message said, knock, knock, Neo. And then all of a sudden, somebody knocked at his door. Scared the crap out of him. So that was like, I think that was a wake-up call. That's one that was like a way that God got his attention. And when he answered the door with some people that he had, that he works with, as far as, I forgot what specifically he gave them, but he answered the door for them, and they invited him out somewhere. And at first he didn't want to go, but the girl who was talking to him, she kind of put her arm on her friend, and on her shoulder there was a white rabbit. So that kind of clicked in Neo's mind, like, oh, the message on the computer said follow the white rabbit. So he's like, okay, it's a little weird, it's a little strange, but I'm gonna go ahead and follow the white rabbit. And they took him to this club or whatever, and that's when he met up with Trinity, who is who's part of Morpheus's crew.
Right.
Quote unquote. And she basically warned him like, you're in danger, and kind of that was the start and opening to him getting ready to meet Morpheus. So I kind of saw that as, like you said, sometimes when we're in those, especially when we're in those states of limbo, sometimes we need that drastic wake-up call, or there's some type of way that God will usually try to get our attention to either wake us up or show us a different side to look at things, or to a way to pull us out. So I think that scene definitely kind of represented that.
Yeah, I would say that I agree. And like even the next scene, I don't know if that was the next scene after, but even when he went to work, after all of that happened, Neo still went back to work and got a call from Morpheus, which now before Trinity had tried to warn him. Now Morpheus is like on the phone and telling him like, you're in danger, you need to get out. These guys are coming for you, and in the midst of him trying to follow, in a sense, what Morpheus was guiding him to do, although he didn't make it out, that was still like another drastic measure in the sense where God was like, look, no, you need to move, you're in danger. This is not where you need to be at right now, type thing.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because the way that it happened was crazy, because a mailman came into his cubicle and brought him a package. He opened the package, and in the package was a phone. And someone all of a sudden called him, and the person who called him was Morpheus. And Morpheus was, like he said, giving him that warning and trying to guide him, navigate him through the office so that Mr. Smith and the agents wouldn't find him. So yeah, I think if anyone just gets a package with a phone call, I think that's kind of strange and weird.
Yeah. So was that ever a time where you felt like God had pulled you out of a cycle that you may have ever been in?
Let's see. I gotta know. You got one?
Okay, I got a cycle that I was in. I'm gonna get all my juice. Let me tell you a little bit. One of the cycles that I had was spending money. I was not good at managing money. Not to say I'm the best at managing money now, but I used to spend money all the time on every single thing that I saw in the stores and this and that nature. And something so small as that, I had to be pulled out of that cycle. And although it was like difficult for somebody who likes to spend money all the time, because the way I was raised, I never really had money. So when I finally got money, I didn't know what to do with it. But that was like hard for me, and it really like I had to humble myself to be able to use my money where I wanted to and spend it properly, so I can have more money to do things I need to do, and then it even helped me to discipline myself to start tithing more. So I think that was like one of my biggest cycles that I had to break myself. But what about you guys? Those who are tuning in and watching, if you guys have ever had a cycle that you feel like God had pulled you out of, comment and definitely let us know about these things so we can start to get a chance to really know who we're talking to in a sense. And then I think it'll be even more better because you may not even be in the same house watching this right now. But again, as Christians, we're supposed to be there for one another. So you get a chance to really see what your fellow sister or brother is going through to help motivate and push you through whatever you're going through as well.
I have one. I was kind of fighting with it because
I have another
really,
one. Yeah.
wasn't really one I wanted to say, but I can feel that
Needs to be said.
yeah.
Speak it out. Speak it out.
So for me, man, a cycle of limbo that I experienced, and I can be transparent and say that I'm working, coming out of it, and in the motions of pulling myself out. For those who don't know or didn't know, I graduated from NIU for nursing. And the first time I took the NCLEX, I did not pass. And for anyone who knows how rigorous and intense nursing is, and this test particularly is, not passing that test kind of put me definitely in a state of depression and in a state of wanting to give up, not wanting to try again. I lost a lot of motivation. I didn't have that drive to even get back into studying. Like, it was a really, really, really hurtful time, and to the point where I was even in kind of fear of failure. And even when I tried to kind of pull myself out of it, there were times where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get back into it, I'm gonna study. But every time I picked up a book, my mind just started to get overwhelmed, and so many thoughts would just come in my head, like, it's too much to try to go back and study. I don't know where to start. What if I try to take it and I pass again? You know, all those thoughts that kind of really kept me in a trapped state mentally. And I think that's one of the things about limbo. One of the things Apostle talked about was some spirits of limbo include confusion and blindness. So all those chaotic thoughts and all those confusing thoughts in my mind, and even blinding me to the fact that yes, you didn't pass this time, but that doesn't mean stop. That doesn't mean keep going. You still have to push. You still have to restructure your mind, literally break your mind down and come out of that state. And I kind of equate that to the Matrix, because the Matrix is basically a world that is meant to blind you from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's crazy. So I feel like you just gave me the strength to speak on another experience I had, because I'm not perfect at all. I have a lot of different experiences. One of my more deeper experiences that I'm sure if you know me, you know I never like usually hold it back to speak on it sometimes. But I think for me it was getting kicked out of school.
Mm.
That was like really big for me. That was like the point of almost a no return to NIU and in the mind. If you didn't catch that. But that was almost the point of no return. The way, even the way it happened was, it was heartbreaking. It was a battle. It was literally like a battle nonstop every single day. A battle, battle, battle. Like I can't do this. I used to think that I wasn't even smart. Like I'm not smart. I can't do this. But before I even dive up in there, because I don't want to go too deeply up in that. What did God have to do for you, or what did God do for you to pull you out?
Phew.
Woo.
Mm. I can't. Man, a part of it, is kind of, he made me realize that it's all about the decision. Like you have to
Mm-hmm.
make the choice to want to come out and to take the steps to come out. Because people around you can encourage you. You can quote scripture. You can, try all these different things, but you have to first want to do it. Because if you don't have the motivation, then you can't even make the first steps to try, or you can't even receive encouragement from others or things like that. So I think that was definitely the revelation that he kind of downloaded in me about that, and even words, even speaking to me directly about it, telling me you're gonna pass, giving me a deadline, giving me strategies to study, giving me letting me know the time to take it, and letting me know you're gonna pass. This is a part of your destiny. I created you to be a nurse. Blah 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 blah, stuff like that. So
Yeah, I would say for me, it definitely was a decision, and I was challenged to put forth some type of action. And that was a big part for me because although I got kicked out, and if you meet my mom, she'll tell you this story all the time. And we was riding back, and I was like shedding tears. I couldn't stop crying. I didn't want to sit in the front seat. I could not stop crying, and I was just like, God, I cannot believe this happened. I can't do this. I'm going home. Move out the bin. And he was like, if you want to come back, what are you going to do? And then my mom was like, well, you can always come home. I'm like, no, ma. No, ma.
that's motivation right there.
That might have been God. I don't know. But at that point, I told her, like, well, I'm finna go and I'm gonna figure out something. And then literally, like, that following week, she seen me have a book bag on. She was like, well, where you going? I'm like, I already registered at a community college. I need to get these credits so I can go back to NIU. And mom used to always be like, well, he used to always say he gonna go back. And then one day she looked up and I had all my stuff packed. I'm like, I need to ride back to NIU because I was going back. So that was the thing for me. So this is something I also want to know from you guys. What did God have to do to pull you out of your comfortability? Again, you can comment. Well, that's probably the only way you can comment. But still, comment. Definitely leave as many comments as you would like, so we can read over them. But I do want to go into something that you said, that fear factor. Shannon, you said at a point it was almost fearful for you to take the test. I thought that was really powerful. It sort of led me to really want to go into our next thing with Mr. Anderson, having that fear versus the faith. So I think that's really big. We don't always acknowledge that in a sense, but there was a moment in the beginning of the movie where Morpheus was giving him guidance to get away from the agents and Mr. Smith. And there was one point where he had told him, I think he told him to go out on the ledge and sort of go around the building.
Yeah, there was like a window.
Yeah, a window.
Things that the people who clean the windows, I don't know what it's called. You know what I'm doing. People who wash the windows when they're up on real tall buildings, that thing that they roll themselves up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
But basically, um, he was trying to guide Mr. Anderson to go out the window and to get on that device
Yeah.
to get to the roof. But um, he once he got out the window and kind of looked down, saw how high up on the ground he was. He dropped the phone. He got scared and was like, "Nah, I can't do this." And turned back around and went
Yeah.
back inside.
Yeah. That's pretty big, you know. If he would have had, I feel like if Mr. Anderson would have had the faith, we applied his faith at that moment, he would have got away. He probably still would have met Morpheus, but he would have got away from the agents and Mr. Smith, and wouldn't have to have went through that interview and all of that other stuff where they planted the bullet in his stomach. So
Yeah, so basically, because he didn't go out of the window, he ended up getting captured by Mr. Smith and the agents.
yeah,
So I think that kind of speaks to a consequence of not having faith in yourself or
Mhm.
believing in God even, or because in a way, we said in the last episode that we kind of equate Morpheus to Holy Spirit because of how Holy Spirit is a guide. So sometimes when we don't listen to the guidance of Holy Spirit, I feel like
Consequences.
we gotta suffer those consequences.
Yeah,
And I think in this case, Neo suffered that consequence because he got captured,
and he got a bug in his stomach.
and they put this weird, ugly, spider-looking beetle bug tracker thing. It was disgusting, and it had long legs, and it like crawled in his belly button.
Okay, don't call
And,
him. Okay. But yeah, that's what we was trying to get to, just those consequences of not applying your faith. So
And I think that's also part of the reason why we get stuck in limbo sometimes, because
we don't apply our faith.
we lack
Yeah.
that faith even in ourselves,
Yeah.
and that's a tool that the enemy can use to keep us in limbo.
Yeah.
Um,
You know, that was in a sense because he did say in the movie like, I can't do this, and then he went back in and allowed himself, and that was also deep too. That he went back in, and then it was just like, well, I'm going back in, I'm allowing myself this time. I know what's there, but I'm just going to allow myself to go in it now. In a sense, it was
he
just
kind
like,
of just gave up.
yeah. First it was like I didn't really know what I was in, but now it's like I know what I'm in. I'm gonna stay in it without the fight. So
Yeah, and I believe that when we lack that faith, that like as believers, just in general, when we lack faith, sometimes we can't really move efficiently and effectively in the kingdom how we're supposed to. And God kind of drops us, led me to a story or scripture in Matthew 17, 19, and 20. It was the time when I believe there was a boy who was sick or had seizures or something like that, and the father took his son to the disciples for healing. I think there was a demon in him or whatever, and the demon was causing him to have seizures or to be sick or something like that. And the father of that child took that child to the disciples, but the disciples couldn't heal him or couldn't get the demon out. So the dad brought the son to Jesus, and Jesus basically cast the demon out. The boy was healed. Then the disciples came to Jesus like, why couldn't we do it? And he basically told them like, you lack the faith to do it. Like you, and that's crazy because we can have the power to do things, but you actually have to believe in it. Like you can't just say, be healed in Jesus' name, but don't believe what you're saying.
Right.
Because you just speaking words with no power behind it. As he literally said, if you had faith even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from here and there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible. So literally, if we have the faith behind the things that we speak and things that we say, that's where we get results.
I like that. I ain't
Oh,
sneeze
it
yet.
didn't come out. Okay. Can you think of a moment where
paying for NIU. That was like my biggest fear, because I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I had a balance. I think about $6,000-7,000. Okay, that was my balance when I got kicked out, and I wanted to go back. Now, although I wasn't able to go back that following year, that's a whole other story. One of the things that held me back was that bill. Now, I had a job. I worked at Victoria's Secrets, and and I also was able to get refund checks from my financial aid. So in the midst of saving, also trying to continue to be able to maintain a living situation and thing, and it was hard. It was hard trying to save. It was really hard trying to get that balance down, and that was like a big overcoming fear where I had to like say, God, I'm not sure where this money's coming from, but I'm here. I made it. So that was like I graduated. And I made it back, and I had a lot of faith that I had to really, 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 really step over that field. Really, 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 really. And thank you to family and friends who also pray for me and stuff. But yeah, that was my big one. What about you?
For me, I remember back when I had Blessing. That was the name of my first car, my two-door Sunfire that has now sunset.
Petty.
Um,
Petty.
I drove that car for a good 2 years. First of all, it was a blessing how I got the car. I got that car like 2 days before I started my first internship in DeKalb, so that was amazing. But the car, one day after I had just got a brand new battery put in it, just decided to cut off, and I had no idea why. It cut off. I was getting in my car to go practice for a dance that I was actually about to do the very next day. Coincidentally, the song that I was dancing to, I believe it was called "Walk on Water," something like that. The song was about walking by faith, so to speak. Interestingly enough. And so the car cut off. It was like, I think this was Saturday. Car cut off. I was upset. I was mad. I work in Rockford. And I live in DeKalb. That is a good 35 to 45 minute drive, depending on how you drive, but that's neither here nor there. And I'm like, how am I going to get to work? Me and CJ couldn't share a car because CJ worked in DeKalb, and we worked at completely different times. We couldn't accommodate each other's schedule. So I was really clueless, just like, how is it, like, what am I gonna do? And then I was angry, and I went to church the next day. Well, actually, I was so angry that I didn't even create the dance, and that was the other thing. Like, I didn't even make the dance up that night because that's just how upset I was, how just completely thrown off I was in my mind. But I just kind of had to push through. Somehow I just had to push through. I just had to pray. That was the first thing. I had to pray. I could talk to Quinn. Quinn prayed with me on the phone, and that began settling my mind so that I could get back to a point where I can think, where I can function. And so I said, okay, God done brought me through a lot of stuff, so I have to just trust you that you got me through this too. I have no idea, no clue how, but I went to church. I danced to that song, which, like I said, was about walking by faith. Then the next day, I went with Apostle, and we actually went to the car lot. He was like, we gonna go to the car lot tomorrow. I'm gonna pick you up. Boom, went to the car lot. Now I'm thinking, like, I ain't got no down payment. My credit not that good. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm gonna get a car. But had no choice but to apply my faith. Like, I literally had nothing else at that point. And so I applied my faith. I ended up getting my car, 2017. put any money down. Got full coverage insurance on it, all
Woo!
that good stuff. So
Tell them.
in the end, it came out victorious. So that was my experience. Very interesting experience.
So,
Looks like we got a question.
we do have a question, and so, okay, so I was
Sum it
thinking.
up, question.
No, I know, but I was thinking, like, when I saw this question, I thought, right here, you see,
Would you say that our level of faith determines our level of destiny?
and you see, I thought that.
True.
See, I thought that.
Okay, we got the answer to this question. Stick with us. Bear with us. Well, we have an example.
We got solid. We got the answer.
We got
That's a
you.
good question. Ask more. Don't ask too many. But
How
ask
would you
more.
say?
Because I don't want to ask the huge.
Yeah.
You know,
So we definitely will touch on this question because it actually fits in
fits
with.
in literally with what we have.
with
That's why I
something
was
we
like,
have.
that's why I started smiling. I was like, oh yeah, it's about to go down. Yeah, you wanna go right there?
Not yet.
All right. I'm actually having a good time.
But as far as with the fear versus faith, a few scriptures I kind of saw. These were some scriptures that I felt like helped me when it came to the battle between fear and faith. One of the scriptures that really helps me a lot is 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So this is something that I really take and apply when I get in those times where I feel like I'm scared of something or fearful of something, or when fear tries to really take over my mind. And also 1 John 4:18 is also a good one because it says there's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out all fear. So I always, when I'm even praying, I say I walk in the perfected love. So fear has no hold over me because that's what casts out all fear.
You got the juice right now.
Somehow you got the juice.
You got the juice.
And probably one more thing I'll just touch on and we can probably move on. One thing about faith, like another scene in the movie that I thought was powerful was there was a point where Morpheus got captured. Well, he didn't get captured. He kind of sacrificed himself to save Neo. And with him sacrificing himself, he got captured by Mr. Smith and the agents. And they were, they put some type of serum in his neck, and they basically, true serum. They were trying to get some access codes from him. There was just some information that they needed from him. We didn't even go that deep. And not Morpheus, Neo and the crew, they decided to go back into the Matrix to save Morpheus. And they got in this helicopter and they like shot out the windows to the place where he was, and they shot up most of the agents. And Morpheus, although he was kind of like dying mentally, he kind of saw that and he woke up, snapped out of the chains they had him in, pulled all the stuff, and he basically had to run and jump out the window to the helicopter. I'm pretty sure Morpheus had to have all the faith in the world
That Neo was gonna catch him.
that Neo was gonna catch him when he jumped out this window. And he even got shot in the leg, so that kind of threw off the momentum that he had. So like he really had to take a leap of faith, literally, to that Neo was gonna catch him. So I think that shows how we have to really take those leaps of faith in different situations and really trust and depend on God.
I agree. You speaking today.
Yeah, that's inherent.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to talk about the blue pill? We gotta go back over the red pill and the blue pill.
Oh yeah, that
We
was.
do. And then after we talk about the red pill and blue pill, we're gonna get into this question. And I'm excited. I'm gonna literally ask the question. They literally asked what was on the paper. Literally. Okay, so we talked about a little bit last week with the red pill and the blue pill, as far as like the significance of the red pill and the blue pill. So I don't know if you guys remember, just a little bit back over it again. That he took the red pill. I was thinking for a second he took the blue pill. I know he didn't, but he took the red pill, doc. But that red pill was almost a representation of free will, choice of thinking, and reacting to a particular situation, giving that option there, basically, or what Shannon like to say, salvation, right?
Yeah, I did kind of mention like I connected it to kind of red pill because Morpheus said I want to offer you the truth.
Yeah.
So I kind of connected the red pill, the decision to take the red pill versus the blue pill, as the red pill being salvation and accepting Christ and coming into the kingdom versus the blue pill just staying in the world.
Yeah. So I thought this was pretty interesting too. And I agree that we can look at it there, but then I sort of also think like we can go even and pertain it to our everyday lives where we are faced with different situations that almost can really be avoided by just accepting the red pill over the blue pill. And I'll say for me personally, not to say I always get into it with a coworker, because I don't, because I remember saying something like that, but I don't get into it with coworkers at all. But if I ever did get into it with like a coworker or something like that, I literally can decide if I'll take the red pill and really like allow God to just take that anger away from me, or take that blue pill, stick with that anger, and now I can't be as effective as I need to be for the next person that I come encounter with. And that person might have literally needed some words of encouragement from me, or some type of prayer to get them out of whatever situation they were going through, or even to encourage them to fight more in whatever they're going through at that moment. So I was thinking like, and this is something that I want to see in the comments as well. Have you guys ever faced or ever experienced red or blue pill moment? I like to call it the red or blue pill moment. Have you experienced the red or blue pill moment?
I like how you said, I like that you kind of made it seem, basically you were kind of saying that choosing to the red pill versus blue pill is kind of like responding either from a kingdom mindset versus just a non-kingdom mindset, we'll say.
Yeah, non-kingdom.
I like that you equivocated that in that manner. I think we experience red or blue pill moments every day. Like literally, even in our cars. Like somebody can cut me off.
Oh man.
Or like Quinn said on Saturday, he can choose to. Somebody might cut you off, or on the road. You can choose the blue pill and cuss them out, or flick them off, or whatever. Or you can choose a red pill moment and say, you know what, let me slow down, let me pray. Pray for myself and pray for those also other people on the road, and I pray that he gets to where he going safely. Although I was probably late from work in the first place, which made me run into this person, but or even sometimes even with like praying for people that you don't like or
I would definitely say that.
I think that's definitely
too.
a red or blue pill moment.
Yeah.
Because I've had times where somebody that I might not necessarily care for too much, or may not be on the best terms with, may pop into my spirit, and God may want me to pray for them, or I can kind of sense that they may be going through something, but it's like, okay, I don't really care, or not that I don't care, but it's just like my heart not right towards them. So I either got to make the choice with the red pill, get my heart right, pray for them, do what God asked me to do, or choose that blue pill, and that's me leaving somebody else in bondage, or leaving someone not helping someone out in whatever situation that they're in, because clearly they came in my spirit for a reason.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good. And okay, so I'm gonna go a little deeper. Now, I think that the red and blue pill moments are even we have those moments even in our walk with our destinies. I think that's pretty big. And the crazy thing is like we sometimes know our destiny course, and we'll have a moment where something is standing in front of our destiny course, and God's like, well, will you take the red pill and allow me to move it, or will you take the blue pill and just walk with it? Or keep trying to go towards that destiny.
Like temptation or
yeah,
something that's
yeah,
trying
man,
to walk your
yeah,
destiny course. I get
yeah,
you,
you know, and what we don't always be realizing sometimes is like, we have this destiny course, but God is not gonna force you or force us to walk on this destiny course. Yeah, we like to call God as petty king, whereas
shout out to Quinn.
for petty king, he will not force you to walk on that destiny course, but best believe he will raise up someone else to replace you, as far as what your assignment was to do in this earth. So that's why I thought that was pretty deep too.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so anxious.
Yeah. Okay. Go
I
ahead.
want to ask that question, and I'm like, man, because they jumped right into it. I thought that was pretty interesting. So, for the person that asked a particular question, we already said the question. I don't remember it.
So this person asks, would you say that our level of faith determines our level of destiny?
Now, the way we're gonna answer this question, I'm gonna go through this, and I hope that this answers it. I'm sure it's gonna answer it. Now, one of the things that we're going to also talk about is the transformation. The transformation from Mr. Anderson to Neo, from Neo to the One. Those are the same person, but they're like literally almost three different
stages.
Different stages of his destiny. So, as we know, Neo's destiny was to be the One. Although Mr. Anderson didn't necessarily believe he was the one, he was, like, we sort of connected him to an immature believer, whereas he didn't really know his destiny fully. Almost to a sense, he didn't really believe in himself or his destiny. And Neo, after being, Mr. Anderson was a slave.
Yeah, that was something that I feel like Neo represents. I'm not Neo. I'm sorry. I think Mr. Anderson.
Yeah.
The Mr. Anderson stage is kind of equivalent to being a slave as far as in the kingdom, and being a slave more so. You have no clue of your destiny. You just kind of do as you're told. You kind of just in the beginning stages. You don't know a whole lot. You
Take your time.
voice just went away. I'm sorry. I'm serious. Like my voice is just literally gone for like 2 seconds. Anyway, I'm back. But yeah, the Mr. Anderson stage is kind of the slave stage, quote unquote. Slaves are in the field. They don't know a whole lot. They're dependent upon the master who tells them what to do. There's no real connection, or connection to their destiny, and there's not even a level of intimacy or relationship with God, so to speak.
Yeah, and so from that point, he comes out of the Matrix, and now he's with Morpheus and the crew, and he's no longer Mr. Anderson, but he's Neo. And I like to say, at this point, Neo is training day. And this is the point of where he goes from being slave to literally start to train himself in his mind, his perspective, and the way he looks at different things to start to walk into this destiny that he's been called for. Before we get into the maturity of the One, I think that your level of What was the question before I go there? Because I wrote it there.
Level of
Yeah.
faith.
Your level of faith will not determine your destiny, because you begin to grow into your destiny. Where you start off, usually as an immature believer, we have to grow, because there's gonna always be something more that God is continuing to ask from us, and that's going to take us to literally evolve in the sense of how Mr. Anderson evolved from that point to becoming Neo, to even being at the one where he reached maturity and became a son. And I thought that was pretty big. And so even at that point when he reached maturity, he was don't do that. Even at that point when he reached maturity, he was still there was still things that was asked of him. So it was like when you get to that point, that's not sort of the stopping ground. You have more to go. So there's gonna always be more intimacy. There's gonna be always more relationship. God is gonna really start to pour and want more and more from you. So I hope I answered the question. I thought that was pretty interesting.
I think your level of faith kind of determines how far you begin to, like you said, how much you grow and how much you develop, and how far you begin to go in your walk. Because, like how I kind of said before, people can tell you your destiny, or but until you actually believe it
for yourself,
and decide that you're gonna walk in it, and have the faith and take that step of faith into what you're called to be and what you're called to do, that could either hinder or slow down your progress, or it can propel you forward into moving forward in what you are called to do, and taking those learning experiences, because it's not just it's a journey. Your destiny, Apostle says this all the time, destiny is not a place or an ending point. Destiny is a path and a journey that you walk down and you have different encounters, different experiences in it, and you grow as you go through each encounter, each experience. And that's kind of how Neo progressed as well. He had to go through the training to become the one to become stronger in his body, to break mental chains and mental mindsets off. It's a whole process and a whole journey that you have to go down. It's nothing that happens overnight, and it's not easy either. It's not gonna happen right away, and it's not gonna just fly through really quick.
Yeah, and I think another big thing that I almost missed, and I'm thinking about it now, even in the midst of training day, and that's Neo at that point, that jump, the jump over the building.
Oh, the leap of faith program.
The leap of faith program, and everybody was saying that everybody feels a leap of faith. Everybody never makes it. Nobody makes it, and for him to be the one to have such an incredible destiny, it just goes to show that nobody is literally perfect, and that you're going to fall off, but it's just really about having that mindset and making that decision to being able to get back up and continue this walk, and really commit to the calling that you have, and what your destiny has in store for you. I thought that was pretty interesting.
And I think that scene, I mentioned this last week, but that was a real powerful scene too, because basically this was a training moment for Neo, and this was just a program where he literally had to jump across a really wide space from one building from one building to the other, and they were like really far apart. And Morpheus told him before he jumped, you have to free your mind. You have to let go of all doubt, all fear, and all anxiety, all whatever else he said. But doubt and fear, I know for sure he said that. And those are things you have to let go. Like, you can't have doubt. Is like the antithesis of faith. You can't say you have faith and then doubt. And you can't grow and actually progress if you have those things. So, and like you said, we're human. Even Neo, as supposedly the one, this all-powerful person that everybody looking up to save the world, he's human. he's human too. You know, he's gonna make mistakes, or you know, he's not perfect. He has to grow and go through that process just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope we answered your question. If you guys have any more, please let us know. So one of the last points we're gonna really get up and get into. Shout out to Quentin. I was paying attention when he was preaching. I'm not saying I don't always pay attention, but I was paying attention when he was preaching. The standard of excellence. I really like that, and I was even watching the movie. One of the big things that Morpheus told Neo is that he went through literally the same thing that Neo went through. So Morpheus was in the Matrix, and he had gotten pulled out of the Matrix, and was shown the world at that time. He was shown the world, and literally he had to learn, in a sense, the skills necessary to survive. He had to learn how to come to the Oracle. He had to learn how to act in the Matrix. He had to learn all of these different skills and standards. And with those own standards that he had learned, he took those down and passed them down to his crew. I thought that was pretty interesting, that standard that was learned was literally passed down all the way from the beginning, because that's his name. The person that pulled Morpheus out is the beginning. From the beginning all the way down to Morpheus, all the way down to Trinity, and I don't think we even noticed that, you know, Morpheus is a general. So that was pretty big too. So that standard literally put him in a position of excellence and Zion. So it hold weight. It hold weight, and I thought that was pretty big that he passed that on to Trinity, and she was actually second in ranking. So it was like, you'd be surprised that the standard that you hold up will literally start to pull others to the kingdom, and then it'll put yourself in sort of like a higher position amongst others, whereas when they see you in a different light, and so then they start to see themselves in a different light because they're around somebody who shines like you. Woo, that was a lot.
You got me when you said the person who pulled Morpheus out was the beginning.
Oh yeah. I forgot it all
That
about.
takes you back to John 1:1, where it said in the beginning the word already existed, and the word was with God, and the word was in God.
Yeah,
So you kind of messed me up with that.
Literally got the beginning, and I think that was deep. You know, ooh, that was a lot. that was a lot.
Yeah, recover
from it, but in a sense, Neo learned literally all of these key factors that sort of really helped him become the one. That developmental process, the different protocols that goes along being on the ship, being in Zion, being part of the crew, and really learned to sort of activate his gifts. Almost in a sense, he really learned to activate his gifts. Morpheus really was that guy to help him release and release his mind. So I thought that was pretty big, and it was different. It wasn't, although the standard of excellence is somewhat was the same for each person as far as the things to help you survive. Everybody had their own special type of training, in a sense, that catered to their own particular destiny.
Yeah, they all had their own process.
Their own different process, and that's a big thing that we have to remember, that we all have our own process. And with having our own process, we don't necessarily want to be, I guess, and we want to make sure you surround ourselves with others who have the same process. So really just make sure you surround yourself with like-minded people, in a sense, that those who are going through the process, it may not be the same process, but they're going through the process. So you at least have someone who knows how to handle a particular situation that you might get into. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, someone who kind of understands what you're going through, and that can encourage you from a positive standpoint as well, because you are the company you keep.
Yeah, pretty much. You don't want to be around that can pull to like a lot of some of the friends that I have are not doing this that I'm doing right now. Not to say they're bad or anything, but it shows a difference in where our mind settings are. And I think that sort of makes me look a little different to them, which is not a bad thing, but it also shows them that when they're ready, I'm here as a guide because I went through or I'm going through that process that they'll potentially, or that standard of excellence that they'll potentially have to also go through. So I'm here as a guide for them.
We got one other question that I think is really good that I think we should touch on real quick. It says, do you think it's easier for people to operate their faith once they see that it's working?
Operate that faith once they see that it's working.
I think that is a very interestingly worded question. I feel like it is easier for some people to apply their faith once they see things are moving. You okay?
Yeah,
Once
I
they
have to write
see
it down before I forget it.
once they see things are actually moving in their favor. But I think
You can say it over the
I
site.
probably
Go
will.
ahead.
But the challenge and the more reward is when you walk in faith, even when you don't see how it's gonna work. Like we walk by faith and not by sight.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you know, the whole point of having faith is so that you look beyond what you see.
Mhm.
You have to see it before you see it, or you'll never see it.
Shut up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I was gonna say that and then say shout out to myself and do my thing, but never mind. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you said. Um,
I think
that is the bigger. That I think that is the bigger reward. If I'm never if I could say I've learned anything with just like my development as a believer is that bigger reward of anything is when I can't see it and I'm like, you know what, although I can't see it, I'ma just trust you, God. And that's really that I say personally. I'ma just trust you, and then I step back. And surprisingly, I'd be like, all right, okay, you should have been did that a long time ago. And his hand moves. That just happened for me trying to get my apartment that I have now, and it was like I was doing everything to make sure that everything was working. It seemed like every time I was moving left or right to make this happen, something else was coming up, something else is coming up, something else is coming up, and I was like, man, God, what am I going to do? This ain't working. All right, I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna step back, and I stopped moving, and I have an apartment. That's about all I got.
A nice one.
Thank you.
But I think that's a problem when times get tough and then we can't use faith. I think that's probably like one of the biggest downfalls of believers. Like there should never be, because that almost suggests that you only come to God when stuff is going good for you. And that's definitely a problem. That's definitely a no.
Yeah.
We're not freeloaders off God and none of that. So
Yeah, and even I know a lot of believers even say this, like even when it's going bad, I'll praise you, type thing. So you don't want to be like you said, oh, I see my faith is working, I'm gonna praise him. Well, even in the bad times, type thing, praise him because he's a guy who moves when he wants to, and it's already done, and you still talking about it and going through the motions of it. He's already taken care of it. He's just waiting on you to believe that it's done. Anything else? That you want to touch on? Okay.
Oh, you done?
I'm done.
Okay. No, but I was just gonna say, because that kind of brought me back to one of the other things that I wrote down. Because another thing, we have to keep our faith charged by making sure we study the word.
Yeah, that's true. We need to hit on that. Right?
Yeah, because Romans 10 and 17, that says, so then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God.
Mhm.
So definitely studying the word, and a lot of times that's where we get our strategies and get our wisdom that we need to live and to continue in our walks and to apply the word to different circumstances and situations in our lives. So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we touched on a lot. We we touched on a whole lot tonight. Are we gonna probably?
We're probably gonna do, because we were going through this and we just could not fit everything into tonight. It's one, we might have a part 3, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see if that works out next week. But for now, it's offering time. So we thank you. You should be seeing a screen come up shortly for Tidely, and if you download that app, or you should be able to go to the website, I believe, and find the link to Tidely, and then you can go on and sow your seed, give your tithe or your offering or expressions of love, and we thank you for those gifts and expressions of love as well. I just want to bless the offering. We just say thank you, God, for the people who have decided to sow. We ask that you return it back to them, and we thank you, oh God, for their faithfulness, and we ask that you return it back to them and increase it and double it and triple it. And we just thank you, give you glory, honor, and praise, in Jesus' name, amen. So we will be back next week for episode 3. I'm not gonna for watching. You want to pray out?
Yeah, I thought we put out. Yeah. Okay. Definitely thank everybody for watching.
And we will go back and read your comments if anybody did comment. And feel free, even if you go back and watch this later on, to comment. We're more than happy to go back and even interact with you guys and continue the conversation.
Yeah, I think that like we did a review beforehand, it'll be pretty good to for those who have left a comment. We can review those beginning next week a little bit, just to make sure we discuss it as much as possible and really get a chance to read off everybody's comment. Please comment, tell us what you thought, all of that good stuff. Now, please bow your heads, all those who are watching. Father God, we come in today, God. We just say thank you for tonight, for your glory to be moving, and for the Spirit to just be flowing through us right now, God. We just say thank you. We ask that you continue to bless those who tune in, and also bless those who have the desire to tune in tonight, but may not have been able to, God. I ask that you bless their families and friends, our families and friends, and the Way Nation. Continue to bless our apostle and keep us as we go home. Leave this place, but never in your presence. These prayers we bless you as in your Son Jesus Christ's name. Amen.